Okay, you're good to go, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our Monday, January 17th regular council meeting. Before we get started, I have two announcements I'd like to make. First of all, I'd like to thank all of our roads crew today and anyone out there working in the weather event. I think we dodged a bullet here in South Glengarry, but certainly other parts of the province had a lot more snow. So thanks again to our roads crew and all the roads crew across the province. We'd like to acknowledge the retirement of Robert Prevost, who served us for many years. We'd like to take a moment this evening to recognize the retirement of longtime employee Robert Prevost. Robert has retired from his position as heavy equipment operator out of the Williamstown garage after 16 years of dedicated service. Robert is known amongst his coworkers as a hard worker, someone who was up for the challenge or task at hand, no questions asked. With those qualities in mind, it is no surprise that Robert's plans for retirement involving work on his farm and hopefully finding time to relax and enjoy time with his wife, Lorianne, and family. Robert, on behalf of council, we'd like to congratulate you on your retirement, and we'd like to thank you very much for your many years of service to our municipality. Thank you. Moved by Stephanie Jaworski, second by Martin Lang. Be it resolved that the January 17th, 2022 council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry now be opened at 7:01 p.m. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. I now ask everyone to stand for the playing of our national anthem. Thank you very much. Approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or amendments? Madam Clerk?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. We do have several items that have been requested to be pulled into other business for discussion. Those being item 7CA, the Environment Committee meeting, Environment Committee minutes from September 21st, and from 7D, information only. We have item 7DA, the Cooperative Purchasing Report, 7DB, the 2021 Building Permit Activity, 7D, 2021 Bylaw Enforcement Activity, 7DI, the press release concerning Community Schools Alliance, 7DJ, the AMO policy update, and 7DM, the resolution regarding abandoned cemeteries.
Okay, thank you very much. Moved by Martin Lang, second by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, move on to the approval of the minutes. We have minutes from both meetings in December the 20th. Moved by Sam McDonnell, second by Stephanie Jaworski. Be it resolved that the minutes of the December 20th regular council meeting, including the closed session minutes, be adopted as circulated. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. Moved by Stephanie Jaworski, second by Martin Lang. Be it resolved that the minutes of the December 20th public meeting be adopted as circulated. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. All righty. Presentations and delegations. So as promised at our Thursday night meeting, we had a closed discussion after the fact, and it's time to speak about the councillor vacancy appointment. Madam Clerk, did you want to speak to that?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. As you stated at our Thursday evening meeting, council received presentations from all of the people who put their name forward for the vacant councillor position, followed by a bit of a question and answer period. So at this evening's meeting, as we expressed on Thursday, council now has the opportunity to put forward one of those individuals for nomination to be appointed to the vacant position. So per the process that was outlined, each member of council is permitted to nominate one person. You don't have to, but you are allowed to move for one individual. There's no limit on the number of motions you can second. If we only have one name put forward, council will then pass a resolution appointing that individual. If there is more than one name put forward, then it's the individual who receives the majority of the votes, the individual who receives more than half the votes would be nominated or appointed in that case. So essentially the process here this evening, Mr. Mayor, is that you will ask your fellow members of council if anybody wishes to put a name forward for appointment. And then at that point, the other members of council can put forward a name. You will ask for a seconder. And then once everybody has had an opportunity to put a name forward, if they so choose, the voting would commence at that point.
Okay, thank you very much. That's very clear instructions. Do I have a motion to move? Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess I'll start by saying thanks to everybody who put their name forward. There were a lot of good options, and I appreciate everybody giving us their time to come and present to us and answer our questions. At this moment, I'd nominate one of the candidates, Rebecca Luck.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor Jaworski, you'll second the motion?
Yes, I'll second the motion.
Okay. So we have Councillor McDonnell and Deputy Mayor Jaworski moving and seconding a motion to appoint Rebecca Luck to council. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none at this time, Madam Clerk, I would request that we do a recorded vote so that the record will stand. And I'll let you call it when you're ready.
Okay, perfect. Now, Mr. Mayor, you do have a resolution in your package that has been left with the name blank. So if you could read that resolution.
I looked up and I seen it. My apologies. It was blank. So move by Sam McDonnell, second by Stephanie Jaworski. Be it resolved that Rebecca Luck be appointed to the vacant office of councillor pursuant to section 263 1A of the Municipal Act. And we're going to do a recorded vote. So,
okay.
Madam Clerk, if you do the roll call, that'd be good.
Okay, Councillor McDonnell, how do you vote?
In favor.
Okay. Councillor Lang, how do you vote?
Favor.
Deputy Mayor Jaworski, how do you vote?
In favor.
And Mayor Warden, how do you vote?
In favor.
Okay, that's 4 in favor.
Motion is passed. So congratulations to the future Councillor Rebecca Luck. Again, I'd like to reiterate what Councillor McDonnell said. It was not an easy decision for this council, but I'm very happy to state that it was a unanimous decision. And we would like to thank everyone who submitted and took the time to submit. We appreciate it. So moving on. 7A, capacity allocation, water and wastewater. Mr. Sege.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, and through you, Mr. Mayor and Council. This evening, I am bringing the water and wastewater allocation for all of our water and wastewater facilities in Glen Walter. As you remember, as you may recall, earlier in 2021, we brought it to you back in February, as well as July as an updated version. In July, we had suspended all allocations for Glen Walter as we were over capacity. This report has a little bit of similarity for Glen Walter. Numbers have changed a little. We've gained a few connections, but we are still in the negative. On the second page of the staff report, you will notice that it is still at -4 for water and -16 on the wastewater compared to -19 as of last July. We did have a few extra connections hooked up between July and December, but those were all allocated connections. For Lancaster, Redwood, and Green Valley, we do have capacity, fairly large capacity for all 3 of those sites due to their size. I'm not comparing 8 full connections for Redwood as a lot if we were to compare that to Lancaster, but for their size, they do have capacity for both infill and new development. So I am suggesting that we do not allocate any more water and wastewater for Glen Walter for 2022. And as per the table provided for Redwood, Lancaster, and Green Valley for both water and wastewater, that those be the numbers we use for the year 2022.
Okay, thank you very much. Dylan, in regards to the Glen Walter, connections and the negative, would you be able to report back to council what the steps, the plan of action you're going to take or working on in regards to the water that's I know there's a lot of water loss, and I know if we were able to probably cut that down by 10 or 20 points, we'd probably erase the negative and get back to like an even. That at this point is my desire, is to get to 0, not I don't want to push the envelope too much, but if you could report back to council with a plan of action, because I think we could achieve 0 if we were able to capture some of the loss.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we definitely can reach 0 if we do find more loss in the system.
But I would also, if you could report back with a plan of action to give us what you're doing to mitigate the issue, if you don't mind, sir.
Yes, I will definitely follow up.
I certainly appreciate that. Are there any questions or comments from members of council? Seeing none, moved by Martin Lang, second by Sam McDonnell, be it resolved that staff report 01-2022 be received, and that the council of the Township of South Glengarry acknowledge receipt of the 2022 allocation report, being a report which details available capacity allocation at the Redwood Estates, Lancaster, and Glen Walter water treatment plants, and the Lancaster, Green Valley, and Glen Walter sewage treatment plants for the year of 2022. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much for your report, Dylan. Moving on to staff report 02-2021, Ms. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just getting to my report here. So the first of 3 reports that I have this evening, they're all zoning amendment reports. And this property is located on Prevost Point Road known as 18594. Prevost Point Road is a private road in the municipality, and this lot on Prevost Point Road is a really unique parcel of property just because it's quite large, and the property also is comprised of some of the private roads that provides access to some of the other dwellings within this developed area. So the purpose of the zoning amendment was to seek permission to develop a secondary dwelling unit on the subject property. The subject property is developed residentially. It's dissected by a private road. It has a large barn on the west side. And then on the east side, it has an existing detached dwelling with 2 septic systems. And the proposal is to construct an attached garage that would contain a secondary dwelling unit. The reason for the zoning amendment is because when we developed this bylaw, it was agreed that there would be no new development on private roads. And we all know that private roads are roads that we don't maintain, we're not entirely responsible for. Many of the parcels of property on private roads are privately serviced, they're undersized. And so it was felt that we wouldn't be looking at encouraging more development on private roads if they weren't easily accessed, both from fire services, ambulance, even providing services such as garbage and recycling pickup. In this particular case, when this application was reviewed, we realized that it's more of a unique parcel of property simply because of the size of it, also its proximity to County Road 2. So we can all see that it's a very easy parcel of property to access. So you may recall we held a public meeting on December 20th. We did not receive any comments opposing the proposed zoning amendment. We also circulated the application to the Raisin Region Conservation Authority, as well as the United Counties. The Raisin Region Conservation Authority had a large role in this because the parcel of property has a few different zones on it. It's primarily limited services residential. It does have some provincially significant wetland and floodplain along the canal. But during the review, it was proven that the location of the proposed development was significantly outside of the wetland and the floodplain. So we were able to meet the applicable setbacks, and therefore the Conservation Authority was able to support the proposed amendment. You'll see in my staff report, I can show that we can meet all of the policy frameworks, such as consistency with the provincial policy statement, conformity with the official plan, and of course, meeting the intent of the bylaw. So it is recommended this evening that this zoning amendment application be approved by council. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. If there's any questions, please let me know.
Yep. Are there any questions or comments regarding this zoning amendment? Seeing none, moved by Sam McTonnell, second by Stephanie Jaworski. Be resolved that staff report 02-2022 be received, and that bylaw 02-2022 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 08-09, the comprehensive zoning bylaw for the Township of South Glengarry, be to rezone the property legally described as Part Lot 24, Concession 1 in the geographic Township of Schlomberg, now in the Township of South Glengarry, County of Glengarry, located at 18594 County Road 2, from limited services residential to floodplain holding and provincially significant wetland to limited services residential exception 9, floodplain holding and provincially significant wetland, to permit a secondary dwelling unit within an attached garage ancillary to the existing primary dwelling unit located on a private road known as Prevost Point Road. Be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council the 17th day of January 2022. The Council of the Township of South Glengarry confirms that no comments from the public were received on this application. Therefore, there was no effect on the decision. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. And moving on to the next report, Ms. Haley.
With your permission, Mr. Mayor, I would like to speak to the next 2 staff reports at the same time, if that's okay with you.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, good. So thank you for that. And the reason why I want to speak with both of them is because these parcels of properties are adjacent to one another, and there is a joint owner between both applications. So I'll start off with a little bit of history. The owners, Mr. Laframboise and Mr. Mines, were looking at applying for severances to create parcels of property that would be able to be utilized for commercial use sometime in the future. They did go through the consent process. The consent was provisionally granted, subject to the zoning amendment being approved. So we're now at the stage where they're clearing the consent conditions, and they did apply for a zoning amendment for both parcels of property. The parcels of property differ slightly in size. One's a little bit larger than the other, but the intent is the same. And so you'll see in my staff report that their request was to rezone the subject property from rural to general commercial. Again, it's for future development. We have no specific development that's proposed at this time. But as you know, it's always important to plan ahead and have available land that's ready to go if we do have an interested buyer or developer. So throughout both staff reports, I do speak to the different provincial policy framework, and that it does conform to the provincial policy. It does conform to the official plan. And we did circulate the United Counties, being this fronts on County Road 34. They didn't have any concerns with the application. They do understand that they'll be looking at entrances and things like that sometime in the future if it's developed. And if the zoning amendment is approved this evening for both applications, we would then proceed in clearing the conditions that would allow the severance applications to be finalized and then registered accordingly. And I think we can all agree that it's important for us to create available spaces for future business opportunities in good locations. And this is a good location. It has great access to County Road 34, just south of Glengarry, and more specifically the town of, I should say North Glengarry, sorry, and more specifically the town of Alexandria. There's definitely like uses nearby this parcel of property that hopefully it will be a successful building commercial lot someday. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Haley. Are there any question on either staff report? I'm going to read the resolution separately, but are there any questions on staff report 0322 or 0422 specifically? Seeing none, I have some reading to do. Moved by Stephanie Jaworski, second by Martin Lang. Be it resolved that staff report 03-2022 be received, and that bylaw 03-2022 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 38-09, the comprehensive bylaw for the township of South Glengarry to rezone the property legally described as part of lot 38, concession 9, located on the east side of County Road 34 in the geographic township of Lancaster, now in the township of South Glengarry, county of Glengarry, from rural to general commercial to permit commercial development in the future. Be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed the 17th day of January 2022. The Council of the Township of South Glengarry confirms that no public comments were received on this application, therefore there was no effect on the decision. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried, and I will continue on with the next resolution. Moved by Martin Lang, second by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 04-2022 be received, and that bylaw 04-2022 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 38-09, the comprehensive zoning bylaw for the township of South Glengarry, to rezone the property legally described as part of lot 38, concession 9, located on the east side of 34 Highway in the geographic township of Lancaster, now in the township of South Glengarry, county of Glengarry, from rural to general commercial to permit commercial development in the future. Be read at first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council the 17th day of January 2022. The Council of the Township of South Glengarry confirms that no public comments were received on this application. Therefore, there was no effect on the decision. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you all very much. I need a sip of water. Sorry, let me just find out where we are here. And so we're moving on to 7BA, notice to reconsider. Okay, so at our last council meeting in December, staff brought forward a report in regards to parkland in the Summerstown Estates subdivision. Council at the time decided to move forward with allowing the developer to subdivide lots and forego the creation of a park. I have received numerous phone calls and emails from members of that community, not just within Summerstown Estates, but surrounding Summerstown area. And I'm here to apologize for the mistake that I feel our council made. You know, we do our best. We work hard for the residents, but I feel like we made a mistake at this time, and I would like my colleagues to second my motion to reconsider. And I'd like to request staff to come back with an option that would probably benefit both. You know, I think we're able to still create a lot, but also create a park, something that's I think would be palatable to both sides. So looking for a seconder, and then we can go into conversation. Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would happily second that motion. I would agree. I think I think given the information we maybe had at the last meeting, it was a reasonable option to an extent, but definitely I'd like to see if there's something we can do to go back. And I've as well received a lot of phone calls and emails on this. So I'd like to see us do something maybe in moderation, as you said, whether it's maybe not 3.5 acres of park, but something in the middle where everybody's happy.
Thank you for seconding my motion. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I'll agree. No problem. Lots of calls, and I guess this is how it should work. If we, it's great to see that people are paying attention and are willing to comment, and had lots of comments, lots of good conversations with people. So my hope is that we don't decide tonight whether we should have one lot or two or anything like this. We rescind our motion from last council meeting, and we I would like to see the community. They seem to have kind of mobilized together there. So I'm hopeful that the community can kind of get a little group together and speak with the staff, and we'll listen to their input and come back and see what we can do to accommodate them.
Great. Any other comments? Okay, so I move by Lyle Warden, second by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that resolution 437-2021 hereby be reconsidered. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is reconsidered. I look forward to having a staff report back with alternate options, and we'll work with the community to come up with a resolution that works for everyone. And I do thank my council colleagues for supporting that request. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to pop on from a procedural standpoint. So council has voted to reconsider so essentially what you would be doing in this instance is voting on the same resolution that was passed at that meeting. So am I hearing that you're not prepared to do that this evening?
Well, I think what we would do is we would postpone it. And can we not do that and then have staff come back? Or do we defeat it? Actually, I think we probably should just defeat it and then have staff come back with something else. What are your thoughts on that from a procedural perspective?
So procedurally, you know, what we should be doing is reconsidering the motion as it was originally written. So if council is not going to be in favor of any of the three options that were presented in that resolution, then you would defeat that resolution and Ms. Haley would come back with another recommendation. However, I see Ms. Haley's hopped on here. I don't know if you want to add something, Joanne.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and through you, Mr. Mayor. And just so it's really clear with staff, because you had 3 options at the last meeting and listening to your reconsideration motion, it sounds like you're looking for staff to present a different option than what was outlined in that report. And that option sounds like to come back and suggest maybe some ways to do consultation with the community before we make a recommendation. So if I'm correct in understanding that, my recommendation would be to defeat the motion because the motion's now redundant. It would allow us to do the consultation and then come back with a new report. We may have a recommendation in that new report being, keep the entire lot as parkland, but at least it'll be an entirely new report with a new resolution that you can consider at that time.
That sounds fair to me. So do we need this a new mover and a seconder, or would it be the same ones at our last meeting? Because it's blank here on my resolution.
You would need new ones. And if I'm just looking at the resolution, I would say, okay. Yeah, so you'll need a new mover and seconder. You'll just read that first part of the resolution. Don't read the whole thing. And council can vote to defeat it.
Okay, thank you. So may I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Martin Lang, second by Sam McDonnell. Be resolved that staff report 176-2021 be received and that the council of the Township of South Glengarry direct administration to I'll read them anyways for the record, Madam Clerk. Accept the land for parkland purposes as per the subdivision approval and budget for the park development in the future. Accept the land for parkland as per the subdivision approval. Do not develop the parkland in the near future and consider creating and selling lots. The monies of the sales of the lots can be replaced in general reserves or can be used for development of other parks. Do not accept the land for parkland purposes as per the subdivision approval. Request cash in lieu of parkland from the developer and permit the developer to create lots for the subject property known as Somerstown Estates Subdivision Phase 2, legally described as part of Lot 14, Session 1, Front Registered Plan, 14M13, Block 23, formerly Township of South Glengarry, now in the Township of South Glengarry. So I think formally, I think we need to choose one of those and then so that it is documented properly. Does anyone have a preferred choice of those 3? And then we could vote on if it's approved or defeated. Councillor McNamara.
For the sake of defeating the motion, I think we should go with the same option we originally passed, in my opinion.
Okay, that was option C. Do not accept the land for parkland purposes. I believe that is what we chose, Madam Clerk. Okay, thank you. Is everybody okay with that for the purpose of defeating the, okay. I'll read the resolution again, not in its entirety. Be it resolved that staff report 176-2021 be received and that the council of the Township of South Glengarry direct administration to choose option C as read before. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion is defeated. Thank you very much. Again, I want to apologize to the residents. We made a mistake and I take full responsibility for that and look forward to reaching out to members of that community and fixing a wrong that we made. Thank you. Okay, moving on to committee reports. 7CA, Deputy Mayor Jaworski.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Warden. I didn't want to speak too long to this. I just wanted to briefly, highlight and make sure that council was aware of, the good work that the Environment Committee is doing. As you know, it's a very active committee, as you can see from the length of the minutes. And in fact, we're meeting. We are meeting tomorrow evening. We probably meet about every 2 months at least. And also, I wanted to make sure that council was aware of some of the recommendations that the committee has made that are contained in that those specific minutes, that relate to as we move forward with implementing the bag limit throughout the year, as well as some other thoughts with regards to organics collection going forward. So it was I just wanted to make sure that folks that council, when they have a chance, that they do get a chance to review that. And, you know, as those items come back to council, they'll know that there's that information to refer back to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I certainly appreciate you bringing this forward, and I certainly appreciate the work that this committee is doing. There's a lot of great ideas on there, and I think the more we brainstorm, the better it is for everyone. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Yes, I'd just like to add that one of the items under bag tag discussion was about providing all the residents with an extra 10 tags. And I think we had discussed that early on as well. And I'd like to see that move forward, whether it could be sent out with the first tax bill or something like this. Just as people are getting used to the system, it would be nice for them to have a few extra tags. You know, if they happen to miss pickup 1 week or something, that they're not worrying about going over, and help people get used to the system and, you know, not feel that they're being hit too hard right away.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any other comments on this one? Seeing none, we'll move on to 7DA. Deputy Mayor Jaworski.
Thank you again, through you, Mr. Mayor. So I wanted to, considering the you know, the tight timelines and the big project that we have before us for the arena, I'm very happy to see that a lot of progress is being made on this, and certainly what's being discussed here in terms of using the cooperative purchasing option. I think that makes a lot of sense in this case to help us, you know, with all the challenges that we have in terms of supply chain and other COVID-related challenges. I think it makes a lot of sense to go this way. But I gather from how in the report, it's, you know, still being finalized. And I guess what I want to bring up at this stage is, before we finalize, before we cross our, you know, dot our I's and cross our T's to ensure that, you know, that we have engaged, you know, the primary user groups at the arena, you know, in particular, you know, minor hockey, skating, and the junior Bs, just to make sure that, you know, if there's any, like, those folks, they're there every day using it, they might have some very important, you know, things that they need to feed in to make sure that we don't have to correct things down in the future. So I just want to make sure that that definitely gets addressed before things are completely finalized, to reach out to all those groups and get their feedback on what looks like the plan is going to be. Thank you.
I see Ms. Burbidge is on. Did you want to comment?
Yeah, for sure. Through you, Mayor Warden. Good evening, Council. So I do appreciate your comments, Councillor Jaworski. So I have consulted with some of the user groups already regarding specific items. I also plan to reach out to all key organizations with an update on where this project is at and make them aware of any modifications that are being made to our arena. I was just waiting for finalized plans in order to provide this information to them. So they will be welcome to provide feedback, but it is important to note that the grant that was applied for back in 2019 is an arena floor and dashboard project. It's not an entire arena project. Therefore, we are limited as to what we can include. And as you mentioned, we are on a tight timeline. So that's why we did use this LAS canoe process. And yeah, so I have been working on this project probably within the first 3 weeks of me arriving. And we are still dealing with a tight timeline that was already determined before my arrival. So staff is doing the best that we can to meet the project timelines. And I do ask that we do have patience and understanding from patrons as well. But yeah, I do plan on reaching out to those key stakeholders, and through my communications with the key organizations, they will be able to voice any of their questions or concerns and any recommendations that are but if they are adding to the project or delaying the process of the project, they will be welcomed and considered, but maybe added to notes for future projects at the arena. I also want to mention that we are in the middle of our Parks and Rec master plan. So there will be a public consultation process underway actually within the next couple of weeks. So this is a good time for those patrons to make any recommendations that are above and beyond the scope of this project.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Councillor McDonnell, you had your hand up?
You, Mr. Mayor. No, I'll just echo a bit of what Deputy Mayor Jaworski had to say. Ms. Burbidge, I mean, I know when the public's engaged and they feel like there's some ownership to it and they've been consulted on it, it mitigates any oversights on our side, and if anything does come back, well, everybody had their say, and there's nothing at that point that can be done. So it's just a good way to give ownership to those user groups, and it kind of covers us in the long run for any oversight. So I'll just echo the deputy mayor's comments. Thank you, and thanks for the report.
Councillor Lang, did you have your hand up? I didn't look your way. I was looking at the screen.
I didn't, but that's all right. I don't have a lot to add, so sometimes I kind of keep quiet when everybody's saying what I'd like to say anyway. But no, I will echo it a little bit too. Just make sure you talk to people. I mean, if we do things, you know, whether it's changing the size of the benches or any of this stuff, that they're aware that it's coming, and that you know, they have some say, and you know, don't tell them after it's finalized and say, no, there's no changing anything. Let them know what's going on ahead of time. So, and keep everybody involved as it moves forward, and everybody be happier in the long run.
Thank you. Did I see your hand up a second time, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I did. Although I think Councillor Lang, you know, said very well, probably what I was going to add. But yeah, I guess, you know, I totally understood there's certain things that are outside of the scope of the dasher boards, but definitely things that are in scope. I think now's the opportunity to make sure that we don't have to rework some of these things, you know, in the future. Because again, the users, they have really unique insight that I think is really valuable to make sure that we can get it as right as we can at this stage. So looking forward to hearing that that their feedback is taken. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, you have tight timelines to work with, Ms. Servage, and I know that your plate has been very full the past year with the pandemic, and there's been some staff changes. So I certainly understand that your plate is full, and I know that you will do the best that you can with the resources that you have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, 7DB. Deputy Mayor Jaworski.
I guess I shouldn't have muted myself there. Thank you, through you, Mayor. So this is building permit activity. So this, you know, this might be a replay of what I said last quarter, but it's even more impressive now that we have all the numbers for 2021. And I wanted to take this opportunity to highlight the amount of volume of work that the building department is putting through. I mean, in terms of the total construction value of 2021 versus 2020, it's almost doubled. So that, I mean, that's an incredible, I mean, it represents an incredible amount of work through your department. So I wanted to say thank you to Mr. Rabi, and keep up the good work. And yeah, just to recognize that it is definitely appreciated.
Yep. Did you want
to? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Jaworski, for the kind comments. 2021 was certainly a busy building season, and you know, hopefully we can keep that momentum going in 2022, and just help as many people with their, you know, building permit endeavors. You know, that's what we're here to do.
Yep. Thank you very much for that. I echo what Deputy Mayor Jaworski said. Your whole department, from the manager down, Joanne, Ms. Haley, like you guys all are working extremely well, and council certainly appreciates all your efforts. I mean, not only in the building department, but I mean our planning as well as seeing higher numbers than normal. So thank you all for the dedicated work that you do. Moving on to 7D, Deputy Mayor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I wanted to thank Veronique Burnett, our Manager of Municipal Law Enforcement, to putting together a year-end report for 2021. I often assume that this is probably one of the more difficult departments to be in terms of certainly probably the one that I would not want to have to work in if it was my choice. But I am really impressed by the number of situations and complaints that you have that come through your department that are dealt with in an informal manner, meaning that you're able to work with our residents and you're able to get results, but without having to go through any sort of formal punitive process. So I wanted to express my how I appreciate that, and I'm sure also the residents that you're dealing with also appreciate that. So thank you for that. And I also wanted to briefly comment too on like in terms of the details of the dog catcher numbers, that it does seem that you know, the numbers have gone down, and in terms of, you know, having to engage our you know, the Kevin Castleman. And also I think it goes to also support like the proposal that you made about going away from dog tags and the value that you know, that service, or what we're asking of residents, you know, where the value of that was, and that it wasn't really there. And I think the numbers here in terms of engaging the dog catcher also support that change. So thank you again for that.
I'd also like to add that the power of social media also helps in that, in those numbers. I mean, we recently seen an unfortunate dog got out on a rescued dog in the subdivision of Williamstown, and I think the post was shared about 100 times, and I don't think there was too many in SDNG that don't know that the pup is missing. So social media, I think, certainly attributes to those lower numbers. Councillor Lang?
I was just giving a thumbs up, agreeing. I think it's great if we can work these things out without, you know, being wandering around with a big stick and smacking people with it. I really like the fact that we're doing a lot more talking, and residents are, you know, the complaints are being done informally rather than in court. Much appreciated.
Perfect. Seeing no other comments, moving on to 7DI, School Alliances, Community School Alliance. Deputy Mayor Jaworski.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Warden. So maybe I'll be a little less brief on this one. I'm very happy to speak to this item. As council knows, I'm the South Glengarry rep to the Community Schools Alliance, and I'm also on the executive of the CSA. And so what's in the agenda package is a press release that's announcing some very important research that the CSA commissioned and funded. And it's important to note that the funding for the CSA comes through the memberships of its member municipalities, so including South Glengarry. So we helped, you know, make this happen. So the CSA, they retained, they're called HEAL, the Human Environments Analysis Lab out of Western University. And they were commissioned to do basically an analysis of what are the connections between a community's vitality and the presence of school within that community. And I think probably most of us already have in our minds what the results of such a study would be. You know, why do you really need a study for that? But actually, when it comes to advocacy and advocating for having schools in our community, you can't go on what people believe. You need to have the data to back up just how important schools are for infrastructure. And so just the details of this research will be presented at the February 3rd SDG Rural Education Symposium. So there'll be a lot of detail there, but the main highlight is that, you know, looking at small communities, those that have less than 10,000 people, those communities that have schools, they have more services in their communities. Like they're going to have banks, they're going to have on average more grocery stores, emergency services, libraries, our community centers. So it goes to show, you know, that there's objective proof that communities that have schools do better from like a socioeconomic and economic development standpoint. So this is important, you know, for the province to know this and for us to present this to the province so that they understand the disadvantage of losing a school, what that can do to a community, and how it's so important that these impacts are taken into account when these decisions you know, are made, when school closures are being considered.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any comments? I would like to take a moment to thank you, Deputy Mayor Jaworski, for your work on this file. We are certainly thankful and in debt to the hours that you have put towards this file. And I certainly look forward to attending the Rural Education Symposium on February the 3rd, 2022.
Correct.
So, and I believe there's going to be some information on the municipal website for this date.
Yeah, actually right now, if you go to SDG, the county's website, there's details on the symposium, who the speakers are, what the schedule was going to be. And even for folks who are not formally registered to attend, it's going to be broadcast on YouTube. So anyone who has access to YouTube would be able to watch the symposium. So I highly recommend to anyone who's interested in the topic.
Wonderful. Madam Clerk, would it be possible for us to share this on our website as well and have a link? Just if there's folks watching our meeting tonight and they would like to join in on that on the 3rd of February, they'll have easy access to it?
Absolutely. It's through you, Mr. Mayor. It's been posted to our Facebook page, but I will add the link and some information on our website as well, and we'll reshare it on our social media closer to the event date.
Thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. And moving on to 7DJ, Deputy Mayor Jaworski. J for Jaworski.
Thank you. J for Jaworski, yeah. And it's the last one from me, so everyone can breathe a sigh of relief. So in the AMO policy update, they had a call to action to municipalities related to joint and several liability, which is basically an issue that municipalities across Ontario are dealing with, where the impact of this is that, you know, we're having insurance rates for municipalities that are going through the roof, and, you know, this in the end is being borne by our taxpayers. So I know AMO has been working on a file with some recommendations to the province on how to help, you know, mitigate some of those negative impacts, and they are asking for councils to pass a resolution to, you know, to encourage the province to work with AMO on a plan before the end of the mandate. So I'm hoping that all of council supports us doing as what AMO is asking in terms of creating a resolution and sending it on.
I certainly support your comments, and I know that this issue has been around since 2014, since I've been on council, and it does need to be, you know, it needs to be dealt with in a way that is equitable, and I hope that supporting this resolution will make a difference at the provincial level. Are there any other comments? Okay.
So I think if for this, I think because we don't have a resolution written, at least I don't think we have one. So I think if it would be possible to ask staff to prepare one for the next meeting.
Yeah, yeah. I'll second that your motion.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other questions on that staff report or information? Okay, moving on to 7DM. Abandoned cemeteries. So I asked to have this pulled forward. This is an issue facing municipalities across all of Ontario. And basically, we're looking for some sort of support from the provincial government. Madam Clerk, if I have a seconder to get this resolution pulled, if you would be able to include the original resolution from Prince Edward County for staff to read over, for council to read over at our next meeting. Basically, the onus is on us to take care of any abandoned cemeteries, and you know, as churches, unfortunately, you know, we've seen a number of churches in our area close, and you know, I could imagine over time that could continue. So the onus is going to fall on us, and with no support from the province. So basically, that's what I remember of their resolution, and I'm hoping that I can get a seconder to get it back on the agenda for our next meeting for review. And okay, Councillor Lang, did you second it, or you wanted to discuss?
No, I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. And Deputy Mayor Jaworski, did you want to add any comments?
No,
I just
echo. Yeah, I was going to second, but you know, I agree with you that it is a big issue, and actually in our case, we actually have not too many cemeteries, but some areas are. This is like if you read the resolution from Prince Edward County, this is a major issue in certain municipalities, but certainly for anyone who has to take over a municipality, it can be quite a large burden. And it probably, because these are mostly historical and heritage sites at that point when if they're no longer maintained by another organization, it makes sense, I think, that the province step in and assist with that.
Okay, perfect. Seeing no other comments, moved by Sam McDonnell, second by Stephanie Jaworski. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry accept the items presented on the agenda as committee reports and for information only. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. And that concludes the live portion of our meeting, and we'll now be going into closed session. Moved by Stephanie Jaworski, seconded by Martin Lang. Be it resolved that council convene to closed session at 7:55 p.m. to discuss the following items under section 239(2) of the Municipal Act. 2, a meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered is B, personal information about an identifiable individual, specifically identifiable individual. C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality, specifically disposition of lands. D, labor relations or employee negotiations, specifically HR matter. E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals, specifically the OLT memorandum. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. I'd like to thank everyone for attending the first portion of our meeting, and we will be back to